Hello BookTube! It has come to my attention recently that some booktubers are feeling a bit despondent about the lack of diversity in the publishing industry, and also booktubers' general reluctance to embrace writers of colour. A fascinating conversation has been taking place. I won't go into detail on why I think reading diversely is an important topic, but I'll link some videos in the description that do a much better job of explaining it than I would. As far as I'm concerned, the best way that we can endorse reading diversely is to speak enthusiastically about our favourite writers from marginalised groups. Enter the Reading Diversely tag. The rules are simple. 1. Name your favourite book from each continent, and 2. Name a book from each continent that is on your TBR list. If you don't have a current recommendation from a continent, that's fine, just recommend one that you want to read. The idea of this is to raise awareness, not to make anyone feel guilty. Now for the sake of this, I'll use the 7-continent model, but exclude Antarctica because I don't think penguins are very big on publishing. So that leaves Asia, Africa, North America, South America, Europe and Oceania. This might involve a little bit of research. I'd suggest that you have a look at some Goodreads list if you don't have examples on your TBR. Now I realise that geography is only one type of diversity in reading, so I encourage you to try and include writers of different genders, of sexual orientations, and any different viewpoints. So without further ado, here are my recommendations and TBRs. We'll start with Asia. My recommendation is The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. This takes place in Afghanistan. This book spans from the 1970s to the present day and follows the repercussions of a single event on the life of the protagonist. All of Hosseini's narratives are incredibly compelling and very well written. It's also very accessible if you haven't read anything from a Middle Eastern perspective before. On my TBR is How to Get Filthy Rich in Rising Asia by Mohsin Hamid. I've heard a lot about this through the BookTube grapevine and I've got it on order. I'm hoping to pick that one up soon. I'm also looking forward to reading more works by Haruki Murakami. On to Africa. I recommend Americana by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. This taught me a lot about black identity in America. It's told from the perspective of a young Nigerian woman and tells of her culture shock moving to the States and then back to Nigeria again 15 years later. At its heart is a love story, but there's so much going on here. It's very readable and highly enlightening. On my TBR is We Need New Names by Noviolet Bulawayo. This is a debut novel and was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize last year, so definitely looking forward to picking that one up. The third continent is North America. Japanese-American author Ruth Ezeki lives in both America and Canada. Her book, A Tale for the Time Being, was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize last year. In case you need more persuading than that, I loved this book. It was one of the best books I've read this year. It had an amazing layered structure where multiple stories from different times merged together to make a greater whole. It's an incredible feat of storytelling. On my TBR is Dogs at the Perimeter by Madeleine Thien. Jason from The Heavy Blanks recommended this one. It's a Canadian immigrant narrative from a Cambodian perspective. That's not a perspective I've read before, so I'm curious to learn more. I'm cheating a little for South America. This is Till the Well Runs Dry by Lauren Francis Sharma. It's set in Trinidad, but the author is actually from the States, but I don't think I've read anything else from South America yet. This is a deeply emotional and hard-hitting debut novel. I'll link to a great review from Token in America in the description. Her video convinced me to pick this one up. And on my TBR, Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This is a classic, a work of historical fiction, and has elements of magical realism. Sounds like a recipe for a good book. On to Europa. I'm always rabbiting on about this book, but it's so good. The Incarnations by London-based Susan Barker. She has Chinese heritage and this book spans a lot of Chinese history. The historical stories are linked together by two characters in modern-day Beijing. It deals with so much identity, gender, sexuality. I'll pop my full review in the description, but just go and read this book. It's so good. A book that I want to read from Europe, Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. I have this beautiful Penguin Drop Caps edition. This is translated and I don't think I've read any Spanish literature before. It's set in World War II and it's about books, so this has got to be done. And last but certainly not least, Oceania. It should come as no surprise that all of my examples are from New Zealand. My recommendation is Mr. Pip by Lloyd Jones. This was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize in 2007. It's set in Bougainville during the Civil War and at first glance appears to be yet another white saviour narrative like The Help or To Kill a Mockingbird. I'll link a video on that trope in the description. However, Lloyd Jones subverts this notion. The story is told from the point of view of Matilda, a young Bougainvillian girl. Her class's English teacher is the only white man on the island and he's reading them Great Expectations, hence Mr. Pip. It's It's about a clash of cultures and what happens when fiction collides with reality. An honourable mention to Janet Frame's Owls Do Cry, which deals with poverty, class and mental illness. And on my TBR is The Bone People by Kerry Holm. This was the first New Zealand book to win the Man Booker Prize. I haven't read enough writing by Māori authors, and that's definitely on my to-do list. So there we have it, my answers to the tag, and now it's time to tag some lovely people. These are booktubers who read pretty diversely, and I think they will have some great recommendations. We have Stephen at Steve Reads Books, Rincey of Rincey Reads, Chris at Christopher Realism, Jason at The Heavy Blanks, Katie at Effusions of Wit, Dee Dee of Frenchy D, Kurat of Obsessive Compulsive Reader, I hope I've said your name right, Danielle at One Small Paw, Susie of Read Susie Read, Dominique at Token in America, Nicola of Robotnik, Leslie at Words of a Reader, Mercedes of Mercy's Bookish Musings, Morgan at Dictionopolis, and Sabrina of Unmanaged Mischief. Of course, this is by no means exclusive. If you make videos, please do this tag. Put a link to it in the comments or tweet me. I'm at Holly Dunn Design. If you don't make videos, give me some recommendations in the comments. Thank you so much if you stayed to the end. I do appreciate it. If you like this video, you can let me know by hitting the like button. If you'd like to see more videos like this, then you can subscribe for more content from the edge of the world. Until next time, ka kite.